Hi everyone, Iris here. Today I want to address a question that I get a lot from candidates and employees, and that is when to leave their job. So there's a few reasons that you would want to leave your job. I want to go through those and talk about them and talk about how you would then approach leaving your job based off of those reasons. Now, I will say as an HR person, I always really like when employees come to me and talk to me about the issue before they jump to finding a new job. Because the last thing I want is to have an exit interview with an employee where we talk about the reason they're leaving, and it's a reason that I maybe could have helped them with and they could have not had to leave in the first place. Always try and fix a problem, come with a solution to your HR team and your manager before you jump to whatever, before you jump to conclusions and try and look for a new job. There's nothing I hate more than when I find out, for example, that a manager was really bad in an exit interview when I could have been coaching them the entire time and their manager could have been coaching them the entire time so that they wouldn't be losing their entire team. So the first reason is that there's no longer growth at the company for yourself. When you think about your career and you look down the line 3 to 5 years from now and you don't see yourself really doing anything there at this company and can't really figure out a path for yourself there, you can no longer essentially see the future, that's when you know it's time to go. With every company nowadays, you should be able to kind of look down the road and think, I could get promoted into this role or I can create a path for myself here. But if you can no longer see that, then it's probably time to move on. The way you would move on for a role like this is to really sit down and think about what your career goals are, what you want to be doing 3 to 5 years down the line, write it down, create a pro and con list. If you're realizing that you're just not being challenged enough and you are not growing and don't really see the future there for yourself, then it's time to go. The way you would approach this is to look for another job. And so really reach out to your network confidentially if you need to and start thinking about what roles you want to be in and start applying. It's important for you to be happy with where your career is projected and where your career is going in order to be happy at the company that you're at. So if that's not happening for you and you're not being challenged anymore, then it's time to move on and it's time to look for another job. And that's exactly how I would approach it. If you have the type of relationship with your boss where you could talk to them and say, hey, I'm not being challenged here anymore. I don't see a future for myself. Do you mind if I start looking for a new job while I still have this job? Then that's great. A lot of times people don't have that relationship with their manager, so that probably will not work. But for some companies and some people, they do, and so that's great, and they can be open and honest with each other because they want the best for each other. The second reason you would want to leave your job is because of a toxic work environment. Now, a toxic work environment can develop in many, many ways. When you originally started a company, you may not necessarily see the toxic work environment, and you may come in really excited and hopeful, and then before you know it, there's a few people who start spreading gossip, or maybe your manager is really, really negative toward you and negative toward your team all the time and yelling at you. And I know this sounds crazy, but it actually still happens quite a bit, and it's usually because the managers aren't really prepared to be managers and they don't understand how you have to treat a team. This could also be that there's a lot of passive aggression going around. People don't really know how to address issues. And so what you'll start to see from yourself in a toxic work environment is that you come in really positive and excited, and then all of a sudden you start to give into it. If you start to feel yourself becoming someone that you're not proud of and starting to give into the gossip, then it's probably time for you to leave. Or if you are coming home from work every day crying because your boss is berating you, or you have such bad anxiety that you're developing a rash on your body. It's funny, but it happens. Anxiety and stress can reveal themselves in many ways. Then it's time for you to move on. And the way that I would leave this type of environment is a little bit tricky because you want to get out of there as soon as possible. And so for some people, the financial aspect is a little bit tricky because they need a job to be able to move on. They can't just quit. So in situations like this, what I've advised people is to start backing away from the toxicity as much as possible. Don't engage with people, try and keep to yourself and do your job and be a team player as much as possible, but don't give in to the gossip. And start saving up some cash, enough for about 2 to 3 months so that you can essentially cushion yourself if you were to quit cold turkey and need to find a new job. So in this situation, I would really think about just quitting without a job yet, because the amount of stress and anxiety it could put on you and that you could then take to a new job is just too risky to just stay there and live in this cancerous, toxic environment. And super, super, super important, and I cannot stress this enough, is do not badmouth your current employer in your interviews for a new job, because it just doesn't look good. Yes, it may have been a horrible environment, but it still was a job. You still took the job. You still did a job. There's a lot of other stuff to talk about. You don't really need to badmouth people. It's a small world. The third reason is financial troubles. Look, a lot of companies struggle financially. A lot of companies these days just aren't profitable. They make the money, they put the money back into the business to grow, or they take on investment money that's a little unrealistic for growth. They end up in a financial struggle. This one's a little bit tricky because I don't encourage you to leave when a company is going through financial troubles, unless it's really, really dire. A lot of companies are going to go through financial struggles, and I think it's a great time for people to become really resourceful and really scrappy with what they can do, and it's actually great work experience. So if you're still getting a paycheck and the company is, yes, struggling financially, but you're getting paid, the environment's still really working out for you, you really like your team, then I don't really see a reason just yet to jump out and leave. What I will say is that this is a good time to start passively looking for a new job. You want to have just some interviews in your back pocket, start networking. If the company went under or went bankrupt, that you would be able to then make a move and make a jump. So in this case, it's a little tricky for me. I think that when a company is going through financial struggles, I kind of see it as a positive, especially if the company and leadership team is working really hard to get out of it, because truly it's a great time to be scrappy. Now, it's also a great time, like I said, to look passively because you're probably a little bit bored. There's probably not a lot to do. There's not much business coming in. So it's a good time to start, taking your sick days and maybe using some of that PTO to start looking for a new job passively. A fourth reason, and many people might think this is not a really good reason to leave a job, but I really think that this affects your life in so many ways, and that is having a tough commute or a poor work-life balance. I think a tough commute where you're commuting an hour to an hour and a half each way, which is pretty common in LA, is actually really tough on yourself, especially if you have children and a family to come home to when you're missing bedtimes and story times. It actually starts to impact your life in a very bad way, to be honest. And so when I start interviewing candidates for roles, I always ask, what's your commute going to be like, and are you comfortable with this? If you're commuting an hour and a half each way, which is, again, pretty common, then, are you going to have a work-life balance? Do you just come home and work some more because you missed that time at work? So these are reasons to really think about changing jobs, and you can really, really love your job and have a really tough commute. And in that case, that's fine. The good is outweighing the bad, essentially. But I think in a lot of cases, a commute can really be soul crushing. I have done a commute before that's an hour and a half each way, and by the end, I kind of want to cry and pull my hair out. And for those of you that have done LA commutes like this, you know what I'm talking about, especially if you have to pee. This is another reason to start passively looking. Another thing you could do in this situation is not necessarily leave your job, but have an honest and open conversation with your manager. Hey, look, I thought this commute was going to be a lot easier. It's actually not. Is there a way that I can balance this out and work from home some days of the week? Or can I come in early and leave early to beat traffic? That change can really help you in the long run and make you not resent your job later on down the line. So there you have it. Those are some reasons that, you would start looking to leave your job. If you like this video, please be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more videos and content like this coming your way. Thanks so much, and see you in a bit.